Hello friends, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. I am so happy to have you here today and I'm looking forward to spending some time together. We're going to jump into some very uncharted waters that are, for me anyway. I want to learn to macrame. And I might be crazy for trying to learn a new craft on top of the already hundreds and hundreds that I do. But I really thought it would be fun to try to learn macrame. I like to challenge myself often to try something new and learn something new and just experiment and dabble with something that I've never tried before. So I thought it would be really fun to take y'all along with me as I learn this. Y'all are gonna get to watch me struggle my way through learning a new craft. And I don't know why I thought that would be fun, but hopefully it will be. Hopefully you'll enjoy coming along with me as we try to do some macrame together. And we're also going to do some crochet projects today. Well, not projects, just a project, because what I want to do is I want to do like a comparison of the two. And I mean, I've been crocheting since I was about 10 years old, so the majority of my life, and crocheting is something I really love to do. I feel like I've pretty much mastered the craft, and since I've been crocheting a very, very long time, I feel like I can say that I'm a master crocheter. Maybe I shouldn't, but I am proud of the fact that it's a craft that when I learned it, I stuck with it, and it's been a part of my life all these years. So I do really love to crochet. And so but I did think it would be fun to try to do some macrame too. And I see a lot of the macrame patterns and I think, oh, those are really kind of pretty. And it's just a bunch of knots. How hard can it be, right? So we're gonna give it a try. And if any of my friends out there are macrameers, please, please, please send your tips and tricks my way, because I am absolutely sure I'm going to need them as I trudge into this very new territory. So y'all come along with me as we do a few macrame projects and work on a crochet project, and then at the end we'll do a fun comparison and talk about the things that I learned along the way. So I hope y'all enjoy. Thank you again so much for being here. I'm excited to have y'all join me in this new adventure. Okay, y'all, so before we jump into this, I did want to just mention really quickly that this video is not meant to be a tutorial because I am actually learning this and I have never macramed a day in my life. So y'all are actually going to just be doing this with me for the very first time ever. And so I'm not actually wanting to do this to teach you to macrame because I've never done it. So hopefully you can actually maybe teach me something. But I really just wanted to do a comparison of two crafts, one that I've mastered and one that I'm just brand new learning. So this really isn't going to be a tutorial per se, just a fun adventure of trying something new together.
All right, friends, are we ready for this? This is going to be very interesting learning to do this together, but we can do it. So we're going to start out by cutting 10 18-inch cords, and these will be called our filler cords. Then we will cut 10 26-inch cords, which will be our working cords. And when I did this, I definitely decided that I wanted to have a stripe in there. So I ended up cutting 7 26-inch cords in the natural color and 3 26-inch cords in this really pretty mint green color. So that's what we'll do, is we'll just get started by cutting all of our cords. So we're going to begin by tying all of our 18-inch filler cords over this dowel in what's called a lark's head starter knot. So you will need a dowel or some kind of a rod to tie these around. A hanger might work, but it might be too thin. I'm not sure since I'm such a beginner here. But we'll just tie all 10 of our 18-inch cords over the dowel. And this took me a couple of tries to figure it out just because, you know, I'm learning as we go here, and I kept wanting to do it backwards. But you're just going to loop the top part over the dowel and then put the ends of your strings through that loop so that you get the knots on the front. The knots need to be on the front of the dowel, like you can see right here. They're in the front, and that's the way that you want it to look. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all 10 of our 18-inch cords across the dowel like this. Once we have all 10 cords wrapped on the dowel, we do want to kind of push everything together and make sure they're snug up against each other. And then we will begin tying our knots. And now we will be using our 26-inch cords. And we're going to start with a short tail end, then take the opposite end. The tail end goes under the first 2 ropes, then the opposite end goes over the top, but then back around the back, and then over the top part of our loop. I really don't know if that made any sense because, as I said, I'm figuring this out as we go. But I think we have our first knot, and then we will fasten this. So we're going to do this twice. You wrap each section of 2 twice, if that makes sense. And you do need to hold on to that filler cord with like your middle finger or something to hold everything tight for the very first knot. This is probably the hardest knot to get started. It's probably hardest to get it started. I don't know if that made sense. I feel like I'm just stumbling all over my words, but we're learning together here. So the second knot is what actually cinches it. Oh, and I forgot to mention that some people recommend that you pin your work down to a cardboard. I tried. You saw me take the pins out just now. It just didn't work for me. I couldn't get things to stay where I wanted them to, and the pins were falling out anyway. So I just decided to work without them. So we're going to try this again. So then our next knot is going to go around the next 2 filler cords. So we're always working in 2. So it goes under the filler cord, then it goes over the top of the filler cord, then that tail end goes behind the filler cords but over the top of the loop part of our working cord. I do not know at all if y'all are following me. I hope you are, but I'm actually watching a YouTube video at the same time that I'm doing this with y'all. So we're just learning together here. So then we tie the second knot, and that is actually what cinches it and holds everything together. So we're just going to go all the way across this entire thing with the same method. Oh, and this is called, I've heard some people call it a clove hitch, or some people call it a double half hitch knot. But we're just going to work this same exact knot all the way across, making sure that as you're tying it around groups of 2. I also want to mention that you want to make sure you're getting your knot pushed tightly up against, all the knots are getting pushed tightly up against one another. You don't necessarily have to pull the cord super tight, you just want to make sure you're pushing the loop part of the knot up against the one that's above it. if that made sense. Hopefully it did. And now we're just going to add in, because I wanted to do a stripe, so I did 2 rows of the natural, and then I'm going to do 3 rows of the green like you did here. And I think we're getting this figured out, y'all, because it looks really cool so far. I mean, obviously we have a long ways to go before I perfect this, but so far it's looking pretty good. Well, y'all, we did it. We made a macrame coaster. It's not perfect, but for our very, very, very first attempt ever, I think this came out pretty cute. I'm actually feeling pretty proud of myself right now. So now we're going to take it off the dowel, and we're just going to lift up all these little loops like you see me doing here. They just kind of naturally lift up. Then we're going to cut each one of these loops at the very top part to make them individual strands, so that we can fray it out and make our fringe. And once I get these cut, I am going to give it just a small haircut to kind of even them out, or just kind of make them a little bit shorter before I fray them. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take a comb and fray all of these out. And I did try a couple different combs, and at the end, the one that worked the very, very best for me was actually my dog grooming comb. So I'm going to get these all frayed, and then once they're frayed out, we'll give it a final haircut to even everything out. And then voila, we will have our very first, or for me, very first macrame coaster ever, or macrame anything ever. So I feel kind of proud of what we made here.
Okay, y'all, so here's what I've learned so far about macrame. Learning something new is never very easy, or sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes new things come very, very easy to each of us as individuals. We all have different skill sets, and so sometimes learning new things come very easy, and sometimes things don't. And while I feel like I picked up just the knot tying part really well, I definitely struggled with some things like keeping my rows straight so that it made a perfect square at the end. It was all kind of wonky and a little bit weird. So I learned that I need to keep practicing. And I'm sure that with this particular thing, practice does make perfect, and I will definitely keep trying and keep practicing. So if you have any tips for me on that, if you're a macrameer, please let me know, because I really would like to know what I did wrong here on the end of this particular one, because you can see where it's just really wonky, and it made my crochet project very crooked, and it kind of grew. Like at the top part of it, it started out as 4 inches, and then by the time I was almost finished with it, it was nearly 4.5 inches. So I don't know what I did wrong here, but if y'all know, please send me some tips and tricks on that. Okay, something else I learned about macrame is that the first knot in each row is definitely the very hardest to tie. So it took a little bit of patience for me. As you can see, me struggling my way through some of the knots on the first row of each row was a little bit difficult for me. But just be patient with yourself, give yourself some grace, and keep practicing, because practice does make perfect. And by the time I, did the third coaster, I felt like I had figured out some different tips and tricks for making that first knot in each row just a little bit easier. So now we're going to go ahead and whip up a crochet version of the same shape coaster. I'm just going to do a square one like this one. Well, this was supposed to be square, but it didn't turn out quite square. But that's what we're going to do with our crochet now. And I felt like This one was a smidge too small as a coaster, and this one was definitely way too big for a coaster. So we'll try to get our crochet one somewhere in between the two. All right, so we're gonna just use, and I am using Macrame cord for this just because I wanted to keep the fabrics the exact same. So we're gonna start with a foundation chain. That's how we start our crochet project. And we're just gonna make a slip knot. And you don't want your loop to be too big, but you don't want it to be too small either. Your crochet hook should fit pretty comfortably in there. Like that's just a smidge too, that's about right. That's about the perfect size because our crochet hook fits in there with a little bit of room to spare. Okay, then I'm just gonna, this is called our working yarn. All of this right here is our working yarn. I'm just gonna pick it up, I loop it over my little pinky and then loop it over my pointy finger. And everybody holds their yarn differently, so you just kind of have to figure, you just have to find what's comfortable for you. All right, then we're just gonna begin our foundation chain. We're going to loop the yarn over our crochet hook like so, and then we just pull it through this little loop. And that's one. Oops, except for that I pulled the wrong. Yeah, so don't do that. Do as I say, not as I do. We don't want this. This is our tail end. We want this. Goodness. And yes, I've been doing this all my life. All right, now we have one. Okay, so I'll just try to do that really slow again for y'all. We're gonna yarn over and pull it through that loop. Yarn over, pull it through that loop, and now we have 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, pull through the loop for 4. Yarn over, pull through the loop for 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's just measure it with this one because we know that we want it to be a smidge bigger than this one, and I think that's actually going to be perfect. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops. So we're always going to add 1. And then instead of crocheting into that, we begin by crocheting into here. Okay, so now you have your foundation chain. And we are going to just crochet, I don't know if you can see it, but you've got 3 parts to the chain. There's the top, the middle, and the bottom. We're going to insert our crochet hook through this top section. So we're just gonna make sure it's on top of this middle bar and underneath the top bar. And we just insert it like that. Then we're gonna pick up this yarn, pull it through, and now we have 2 loops on our hook. So we're gonna yarn over again and pull it through both loops. And that is your first single crochet. So we're going to do that again. Okay, so now our next stitch is the next section of the chain. So you have your top bar, your middle bar, and your bottom bar. We're going to go under the top bar, but make sure your needle stays on top the middle bar. So we go under this top bar, pull up, pull it through the bar, then yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops. So we're going to do that all the way to the end, and then you want to count and make sure that you actually have 8 stitches. Okay. So a lot of crocheters will feel like they need to crochet into that, and you don't want to. That is actually just the knot from our slip knot at the beginning. But if you're unsure, you can go back and count your stitches. You can see these little V's across the top. Those are each a stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 stitches. Okay, now we're gonna flip our work. Get a little more working yarn here. Okay, and when you flip your work, you always want to make sure that your working yarn stays to the back of your work. Okay, you don't want it to be up here in the front and try to work with it, or you're going to have a tangly mess. You're going to have a big mess on your hands. All right, so now we have our first row. Now we're going to go ahead and make our second row, and this gets a little bit easier. The first row, I feel like in crochet, is always a little harder, is probably the hardest row to make. So now we're just going to continue all the way making single crochets. I just want to keep this super simple. So now on our chain, we only had, we only went through one loop, but this one now we're going to go through two. So we have this little V right here, and that's actually the top bar of our stitch. So we want to make sure that our needle crochet hook goes underneath both of those. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through that so that we have two loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through both. Okay, and then this is our next stitch, and if you're unsure, you can turn it this way and find the V, and that's where your crochet hook is going to go, is right underneath that V, just like that. Yarn over and pull through both. Okay, I'll do that one more time with y'all, and then I'm just going to crochet to the end because I don't want to keep you here forever and ever and ever. Okay, so if you're unsure where your next stitch is, turn your work like this. Let me get that out of the way and see if you can see it. So here's your next V. Okay, so we're going to insert our crochet hook underneath. Let's see if we can get it close. Underneath both of those V's, just like that. Okay, then we're going to yarn over, pull it through, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. Okay, so we're going to insert to the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two loops. Insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Same thing. Okay, so now you get to the very end, you do not want to forget your very last stitch, which is right here. If you forget that last stitch, then you're going to end up with a triangle instead of a nice, perfect square. And sometimes that last stitch can be a little fiddly. Okay, so now we have 2 rows of single crochet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just continue across. Oh, then you flip your work, continue across, flip your work, continue across. So I'm going to go ahead and do that until our coaster is about the same height as this one. Now we have three rows. All right, y'all, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera until I get it the same height of this one, and then I will meet you guys back here. All right, so I've got a total of 8 rows so far. So let's measure. So our project is 4 inches wide. So 1 more row and I think it'll be square. So we'll go ahead and do this last row together. Okay, so I finished my last stitch here, turned my work, and one thing that I see beginning crocheters, the mistake that a lot of beginning crocheters make is they have a tendency to skip over their first stitch and their last stitch, which if you do that, your work will end up going like this, and you could end up with a triangle or a Christmas tree or some weird thing, which is cool because there are lots of patterns for that. But in this case, we want it to be square. So I just want to make sure that you understand where your first stitch is and your last stitch. So you can see the stitches pretty clearly on this because this macrame cord is 3 millimeters. It's pretty big. So our first stitch is this one, not this one, this one. So you don't want to skip that. So we're just going to insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Okay, so here's our second stitch right here. And if you're unsure, you can see the V's on the top. So we're just gonna go underneath the V's, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Insert the hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And again, this is a single crochet. And now we've come to our very last stitch, which got a little off camera there, sorry about that, which is a little bit fiddly. I kind of tend to just work it a little bit so that it makes it easier to insert your crochet hook. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the last. Okay, so now we have a cute little 4x4 square, which this one is definitely not square. So, oh, I should have put a stripe in this, like we did with that one. Well, we'll do it in our next one. So, to tie this off, just cut a pretty good tail, insert it through the loop, pull it up to make somewhat of a knot, and then I kind of tend to pull it pretty tight. Then I make sure that one is pretty tight. Then, because I'm going to fray these, I'm not going to weave them in because we're going to make a cute little fringe around the edge of this one just like we did on this one. Okay, so to make our fringe, I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. We'll say that long. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a whole bunch of these, and I'll finish that off camera and then I'll meet y'all back. Okay, y'all, so I went ahead and cut 8 of these to make the fringe across the top of, to make the fringe on one side across the top. All right, so we're just gonna fold this in half, and we're going to actually use that similar knot that we did in macrame, believe it or not, and it might be actually easier to do this with a crochet hook, because we want to pull that all the way through. Oops, my crochet needles out of the way. All right, so I'm gonna pull that all the way through, and then we're just gonna come over through this, just like we did that lark's head. I think that's what that knot was called, but in macrame. I never knew what it was called. I've always just done this in crochet. And then we're just gonna make it a tight knot. Let's get a bigger crochet hook to go under this one. Okay, so we just fold this in half, use our crochet hook to pull it through so that we have a loop. Okay, and then we're just going to bring these ends through the loop and pull it tight. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for every single one of the stitches going all the way across each side. Now we have all of our little fringy things. Let's get that out of the way. All of our little fringy things tied on. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my scissors. I'm just gonna kind of shorten them up just a little. Kind of get them all sort of the same length. that we have all of our fringe frayed out, we can give it a little haircut. So if you've always wanted to be a beautician, you could practice right here on your little crochet project. All right, so I'm just gonna give it a little haircut and try to get them all even. Okay, so I also learned that I definitely do not like macrameing in the round, not at all. It was too messy for me because there was just cords going everywhere, and it just made my mind feel like, oh no, I can't do this. So yeah, macrameing in the round was not going to be for me at all, I don't think, and maybe with practice I'll get better at it and it will become easier, because I do remember the very first time that I ever learned to crochet in the round, I felt a little overwhelmed with that too and thought, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to get this, but I did. And as you can see, we crocheted a round coaster today, and I definitely like our crochet version of the coaster in the round better. However, I like the square version of our coaster in the macrame better, just because I like the textures that it created, and I kind of think the pattern is really, really cool. So y'all have to let me know which you think turned out better. Do you like the crochet version or the well, not maybe turned out better, but just what pattern do you like better, the crochet version or the macrame version? So one of the things that I definitely feel like I like crochet better for is the fact that you're only dealing with one cord. You just have the one working yarn that you're working up, versus macrame where you're dealing with multiple cords, and I definitely feel pretty clumsy, which is to be expected. I mean, I knew I was gonna feel pretty clumsy, you know, learning a new craft for the very first time, but I just think overall it's a little easier to work with one cord versus many cords all at once. So that's something that I'm definitely going to have to get used to, I think. So I really feel like my biggest takeaway from all of this is that I tried something new. It was fun to just expand my horizons and try something. And so my advice to you is, don't be afraid to try new things. Expand your horizons and just go for it. If there's something you've been wanting to try and you've been feeling a little bit hesitant, I say go for it. Just jump in and do it, because I was a little hesitant to try to learn something new, just because I feel like I already have so many crafts that that are a part of my world and a part of my daily life, and I thought, oh, why do I want to learn something new now? But I'm glad that I did. I'm really glad that I tried it. I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I think I want to continue to try and learn and expand on my knowledge base, which is very little right now when it comes to macrame. So I think it is definitely something that I want to continue trying and learning. So yeah, don't be afraid to go try something new. If it's something you've been wanting to do, I say go for it. Okay, y'all, let's just recap real quick. So I feel like I think that I might like this round one the best. I think out of all of them, it's my favorite shape, and I do like the texture, and I feel like the fringe on this one is just super cute. So I think with that said, I really do need to try and master that macrame in the round and see if, well, maybe not master it, but see if I can't get it down, because I do really like the round shaped coaster the best. And this one is 5 inches in diameter, so which is a great size. I think it's great for a coffee mug, and the drinkware also fit really nice on it. I mean, I'm using it right now for my glass, and it fits great. I think I like it a lot. I think all of these will be super cute for like your outdoor table settings, or just your your outdoor coffee table or whatnot. I think they're just really cute. They kind of have that fun summery boho feel. I just really like them. So the 2 square crochet ones, I do really like these as well, and I did go ahead and do, you know, the one in the green with the green stripe. I don't like it as much, and I'm not sure how my fringe ended up clear down here. But I don't like the one with the stripe as much. I think I like just the plain color, the solid color one. And I do want to do a solid color one in the green as well, and see how I'm gonna like that. These ones turned out to be 4 inches by 4 inches, so these are 4 by 4. And yeah, I think these ones are really cute too. I definitely like the square. However, with the square shape, I think this is my favorite texture. I really love this texture. It is so cool. So I've definitely got to figure out how to get these to come out very square. This one ended up being, let's see, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. This one ended up being only 3 inches by 3 inches. And then the bigger one is 4.5 by 4.5, which again, I do think this one's just too big. I mean, I might be able to use this for a pop, like a hot pad for your pans. But anyway, so I think out of all of them, as far as shape goes, I really love the round one the best. I love how nice and square the crochet ones turned out, but I love this texture. So yeah, this texture is just so cool to me. I just love it. So anyway, that's our little recap of all of our fun little coasters that we whipped up today. And I will say that the crochet ones worked up so much faster for me. I did all 3 of these crochet ones in like 40 minutes versus the like 4.5 hours it took me to do the macrame ones. However, again, I've been crocheting forever and a day, so that's probably why the crochet ones worked up so quickly for me. So I'm gonna keep practicing on this macrame because I think we can do something fun with this. Well, that was definitely interesting, y'all. I'm not 100% sure what I think of macrame right now. I'm glad I tried it, and I definitely am going to continue to practice and see if I can't, you know, get a little bit better at it, just, you know, and maybe even learn a couple of new knots instead of just that, you know, the one double half hitch that we did today. So maybe I'll try learning a couple new knots and just see where it goes. But I don't think it's going to be replacing crochet for me anytime soon. Crochet is just too near and dear to me, and it's just such an ingrained part of who I am anyway. So I think my crochet is safe. Anyway, it was really fun to have y'all along with me today as we tried something new, and just, it was fun. I loved having y'all be a part of me learning something new. It was fun to share that with you. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider giving me a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Your support and love just means so much to me, and I love that no matter what crazy thing I try on here, y'all are always here to support me. So thank you so much for that. I just appreciate y'all so very much. So I'm gonna go ahead and say goodbye for now, and I will see you soon, and until then, y'all have a great week. Bye.